But what's always interesting to me is that every single event that I go to, it doesn't matter if I've been to a city recently or I've not been to the city in a number of years. I'm like, wow, people are very kind. They just applaud, but you know you're applauding for Curtis Black. Like, it's nice because people don't know who Kimberla Lawson Roby is. They know who the Reverend Curtis Black is. So he precedes me every single place that I go, and I guess, you know, it's kind of been interesting throughout the years because when I wrote Casting the First Stone, the very first book in the series, that came out in January of 2000, so that's 13 years ago. And so when I'd written my first two titles, Behind Closed Doors and Here and Now, then moved on to that was my third book. A lot of people think Casting the First Stone is my first book. So when people say, oh, I started with your first book, Casting the First Stone, well, what that means is they don't read my other books. When I was getting ready to write a synopsis for my third novel, I said to my husband, I said, you know, I really want to write the way that I have with the first two books. I want to write about real life issues that anyone can relate to, because I wanted it to be what readers were telling me. If they couldn't relate to the characters and the issues and the problems and the obstacles that they had, they knew family members or friends who had it. So I thought, well, I'm going to stick to that. It'll be fiction, but it will be very real life and very relatable. And so I said to him, but this time I wanted to be something that everyone will know about, or at least they will have heard about, no matter who they are. And so he said, what about all of the issues that tend to go on in churches? And so I thought, wow, I had not thought about that. On the tour for that, I didn't know that Curtis was alive and well in every single city in the country. That's what shocked me the most. And so I thought, oh my gosh. And so we would go out to the events no differently than right here, the way all of you are here tonight. And the conversations would be so lively and people would be so opinionated and they'd have all these strong feelings about it. They started telling me the real names of their pastors. And that's when I realized how prevalent it was. And so even though I'm writing about a pastor who is, at one time, rather, we know he's really turned his life around now if you followed the series. But at one time, he was really consumed with money and power and women. And so he wasn't the man you wanted standing in your pulpit, at least on Sunday morning in your church. And so my reason for writing about it, once again, was, because I knew people could relate to that. So, of course, if you've read the story, then you know things didn't go well for Curtis in Casting the First Stone. He had a wonderful wife in Tanya. But he ruined things with her, and he was ousted from the church. And so then I moved on because it was never my intention to write a series about any of my characters, not ever. And so I wrote the next book, was called It's a Thin Line. And then after that, I wrote a book called The Taste of Reality. So you can see I really had moved on. But as I went around to events for those two books over that 2-3 year period, people were kind again, just like all of you are. You know, it's like, well, that was really nice. But what is the Reverend Curtis Black up to? And so I'd be thinking, well, he's not really up to anything, you know, because I've moved on, and hopefully he has too. And so that was kind of it, and I still continued on, and I was ready to start working on the next book, and it was not going to be a Curtis Black title. So finally, my literary agent, of course, at that time, and she's unfortunately passed away 3 years ago, but at that time she was at a dental office for an appointment in New York, and it was a very large dental office. So she said she checked in and sat down and was just waiting to be called back, and so she heard these women having this conversation. It was the receptionists, and they were just really going on and on about this truly awful pastor. And so she said, I kind of was, eavesdropping, and I heard them talking, and they were just, giving all these details. And she said, I thought, wow, this must be why so many readers are enjoying Kim's book, Casting the First Stone. They know who this man is. And so they kept going on, and she said, and I kept listening. And then she said, out of the blue, one of them said, I'm telling you, that's why I can't stand that Curtis Black. So she thought, oh my goodness, they're talking about the book. So she said she went up and she introduced herself, and she said, I represent Kimberla Lawson Roby, and she just wanted to have a conversation with them. Why, do you all feel this strongly about it, and would you want to see another book? And so hands down, they were all saying yes. And she called me and she said, I know you don't want to write sequels, you don't want to do a series, you've said that, but when you have such loyal readers who have supported you to this degree, you really have an obligation to give them what they're asking for. And so that's how I moved on and finally wrote Too Much of a Good Thing.